Welcome everybody to another Monday expert interview. And we got the one, the only, Greg Ugalde is coming back to join us in just a few moments. We are super excited to have Greg, who is the past chairman of the National Association of Home Builders. And we are going to be discussing economic updates, advocacy progress, White House letter, Building Systems Week, Innovative Housing Showcase, Building Systems Housing Summit. We got so much going on. It might just make your heads explode. I don't know if it can get any bigger than last week. We were at World of Modular. We were at Advancing Prefab. We went from Florida, San Antonio, Texas, all the way over to Phoenix, Arizona to bring you all the latest and greatest while we were there. But we cannot do any of this without our sponsors. So let's give a big shout out to Carson Holmquist and the team at Stream Logistics. They are experts in high stakes freight and the perfect choice for projects with timelines and specific delivery sequences, shipments with high complexity and unique constraints. The new methods of construction need new transportation solutions, and they are up for the challenge. Please reach out to them at streamlogistics.com. And hey, and follow some of our posts. We ran into them both at World of Modular and at Advancing Prefab. They are using technology like no other in the world of logistics. It is not your typical shipping company. Also, another big shout out to CombiLift. We love CombiLift. CombiLift is the largest global manufacturer of multi-directional forklifts and straddle carriers, an acknowledged leader in long load handling solutions, offering a free warehouse and site optimization design services. More than 50,000 CombiLift units have been sold in over 85 countries since CombiLift was established in 1998. CombiLift has a solution for any material handling requirements within the offsite construction industry, and that's why their mantra is all together better. Contact Paul Shorts at combilift.com to learn more. All right, without further ado, let's bring in our good friend, advocate of the industry, advocate of offsite construction, Greg Ugalde. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Dave Cooper. How are you, sir?
Man, I am doing wonderful. You know, it's sunny out. I'm in Florida. Just had a big week last week, traveling all around. And, you know, like always, man, we're skidding in by the seat of our pants to get things done. How about yourself? Where are you at these days?
Good. You know, a lot going on. You know, first, let me start by just saying congratulate you and Jen on such a great week last week. You know, I mean, it wasn't easy. To the listener, it just sounds like everything is seamless and you just jump from one part of the country to the next. But what you guys are really doing is, besides becoming a household name, I mean, that's really the key behind all of this, but you really are noticing some of the things that are happening in the industry and why it needs some tightening up, for example. You know, here you are, one of the only people that could actually accomplish that feat and get everything done in 1 week like that. But it did point to some of the things that we're constantly trying to look at and try to communicate better. And I've heard you say it a number of times now, try to really consolidate some of the energy and efforts so that everybody's kind of, you know, rowing in the same way, Dave. But I think that we have so many things facing our industry that it's keeping us all busy, to say the least.
Yeah, you know, I mean, both of the venues, World of Modular and Advancing Prefab, were just packed to the hilt, right? Would it be great if we could all come together and have a big industry event and row in the same direction? Yeah, but I think we'll see more of that moving forward. I think, you know, the industry is growing. It's still getting its feet in some areas, but in our area of showcasing what's going on, yeah, it was trains, planes, and automobiles, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And we even had an Amy Marks takeover show. I mean, I was doing my show, she walked right in, took over my camera, and that was the end of that. I turned into a cameraman.
You did very well, though. I'm telling you, you know, and I was telling Jennifer this, that one of the things that I noticed, because I did catch a portion of that you knew everybody. I mean, it didn't matter where you were or whatever. And I'm talking about people from other countries and all these companies. You've become like the focal point that everybody knows. It's sort of like, what was that thing they have, like the 7 degrees of
separation?
Kevin Bacon, right?
Yeah.
But now it's Dave Cooper, you know, the 7 degrees, like everybody in the industry touches you guys somehow. But that's really what's happening here.
Yeah, it really is. And, it's so wonderful to see all these people from around the world come and join us over here in the States and the people that are within the States. So many people are ready to get back to business and make this industry better and build it better. So let's hop into it, Mr. Greg Ugalde. You got some
Sure.
industry updates for us. We're excited to hear a little bit more. Why don't you first, though, tell us a little bit about what Greg Ugalde's up to? We haven't had you on in a few months. Where are you at? What are you doing? And then give us some industry updates.
So, it's Dave, it doesn't take too much for me to be able to keep busy. So, since I finished my 6 years as a senior officer, and I will be the only one in our history to do that because of the circumstances. So I was traveling, over 100,000 miles in the air for those 6 years and got to every state and did quite a few things there. But when I finished, I'm still on like the National Housing Endowment Board, and I'm still on the Home Builders Institute Board, right? So those two arms are how we get our workforce developed, education as well as funding it. And I got some things going locally. This is pretty good. Sheila and Eric Person up at Central Connecticut. So the HBRA of Central Connecticut, that's our largest local here in Connecticut. And I am now on that leadership ladder. We felt it was important to take what the three of us have gained nationally, bring it back home, and we're going to start getting involved in all these pilot programs like with the Boys Clubs and Girls Clubs of America, things like that. And what's
Right.
happened is I'm going to be second vice president now, so that I'll be going through the chairs just like I've always done. And but it's really important because now, just like last week, you saw to the organizations coming out of COVID and figuring out how we're going to get back on the bicycle here. That's what's going on all around the country, and we're hitting it hard, but we're also seeing what all these issues that are facing us as well.
Yeah. Well, just so everybody knows out there, what Greg's talking about with the Boys and Girls Club of America and HBI and what the NAHB is doing to bring education back to the youth, they are partnered up with the Boys and Girls Club of America to actually bring trade skill training to the youth. And I think that was such an ingenious way of going about this, to be able to utilize somebody that's already in that space to give them some more tools to help these young people out.
And it's already, David, it's unbelievable because exactly what you said. You take a footprint that's in existence and you start building on it with real life tools where we could take these young people right out to the job sites and get them involved and get them some training. And it's a great thing. And we're going to see this kind of initiative explode, and we're going to be doing it all across the country. So.
For sure. So let's get into it, Greg, then. All right, so you're involved in all that. You're still doing your own development work up in Connecticut. I know you're going to be a big part of your HBA up there, right? Your Home Builders Association in Connecticut. You got some updates on that?
Yeah, so, one of the things that it's interesting, and we'll be touching upon this as we talk today, but you find out quickly. So, I'm on the Connecticut Housing Finance Agency. That's every state has one, but we do the funding. It's the conduit between like federal funding and state funding and getting it out there for housing initiatives. But also, I was just appointed. There's 15 of us with 15 legislators on the Commission for Connecticut's Future and Development. And this is going to be interesting. You're seeing this done across the country in all these different states. But my mantra has always been housing affordability. How are we going to afford to put a roof over everybody's head? And that's what we're trying to bridge across the country. And it's big here in New England. Obviously, as you know, we have very high land prices, and our shelves are we're seeing some bareness. We need to be able to bring product back online, and we need to refurbish, and we need to start getting approvals to get more land ready to put people in homes, and to make sure that we can get, we talk about this a lot too, where, your first responders, your teachers, your firefighters, we need to be able to get them into areas where they can get close enough to where they work to be effective.
So, with the supply chain issues we're still having, I mean, is, not only on our shelves in grocery stores, but in the lumber yards and elsewhere, are we seeing any end in sight, Greg?
Yeah, see, that's the big one, Dave. So you see a 20% price increase year over year just on what it cost to build a home. And that's on, we've talked in the past about the $18,000 just on the lumber increase price for when you start building a housing unit. You start adding those up, those costs, and you see that we're at a inflection point. We're calling it an inflection point in our industry and in the economy itself. So you have all these forces. We have very burdensome regulations as you travel across the country, as we all look. It's very difficult to build from the ground up. You have increasing interest rates, and you have material costs and labor cost increases. You lay all those things in a pile, and we have what we're facing. We have high demand, which forces prices up in itself. And we're going to have what, 5 clicks, 6 clicks of interest rate increases. The next time we're going to see 50 basis point increase coming up. And so now you look, we have the highest interest rates right now that we've had in 12 years. And it's only because inflation is so high that the Fed has no alternatives but to tighten the policy to be able to control that, because inflation, runaway inflation, that it start affecting us across the board. So it's like a chess game that they're playing, but with tons at stake, including the housing industry.
Yeah, sure. I mean, are we looking at 7, 8, 9% interest rates again in your mind coming up?
I think we'll probably see, and if you talk to Dr. Dietz, and Rob Dietz, our chief economist, and the way it looks is they're going to take a stab, and we're going to throw interest rate increases. They've changed some of the other monetary policy, and at some point we'll start seeing it. We're going to come in for a landing on these high inflationary pressures. At that point, they're going to try their best to keep rates from running away on us, because we've been at such a historically low interest rate environment that we can keep them still low historically without going overboard. And that's really that's the balance that's trying to be achieved here by the Fed. And I think that they're going to take their best stab at it. Where in the past, though, they've always had the ability to try to hit inflation before it's happened, because of COVID and all the money that we pumped in, with the stimulus checks and everything else. We've really heated up the economy. And so now they're shooting a moving target, but it's very complicated, but they're going to do their best to try to make sure, because, you have things like the housing market for the first time, in certain parts of the country, like in New England, but we have red hot housing demand. Right. So it's important that we don't just crash the whole thing either. And that's really what they're trying to balance. And they do a great job. They listen to everybody. We'll be in a couple weeks talking to them again. And they really listen to our industry. And they've even quoted us if you listen closely, and they start talking about the efforts that they're going to put forth, and especially with the interest rate environment the way it is, they'll listen to what's happening in the housing industry.
Yeah, I think I just saw Rob Dietz. He was on the news not too long ago. Again, I saw his name pop up there, giving some economic updates and what have you. All right, Greg. So we know you guys are advocating for us out there. We know that you're watching the interest, the market, the supply chain, the lumber costs, and all of that. What is the process for all of this advocacy? Like, why don't you walk us through how that's going?
So we have a couple things that are happening too, and this is a good spot, Dave, to mention on June 15th. I know that you'll be active with us on that too. It's our LegCon, we call it. So it's in the middle of our June Leadership Week, right? So we'll be in town and we'll have all our committee meetings and everything. But we also have the day where we're going to send all our builders from across the country up to Capitol Hill. And that is super important because we iterate these things that we're talking about now. And it's very powerful when we can take all our build pack efforts and everything that we've done to cultivate these relationships. And then we go up and we have our legislative talks face to face with the people that are actually voting on all this stuff, right? So your senators and your congressmen and women. So, they're up there and we're going to bring them the information. That's what we do very well. We advocate, but we also back everything up, all our points, with these information pamphlets that we'll bring up and all of this. And we always offer to have our staff and our members follow up so that we can help educate, right, in the process, so we don't leave it up to our legislature to try to guess where things are or what impact things may have. We're going to tell them. We're going to say, look, here's why this will happen. Here's why we need to do it this way. And we work at that all year long, but June 15th is LegCon, our day at the Capitol.
So when you're at the, I just got a quick question on that. When you're at the day of the Capitol, are you meeting with all the different senators and congressmen or what have you that's there? Or how does that process work? How do you get in front of the right people to hear, what issues we're looking to resolve or fight or legislation that's being passed?
So there's two things that you'll find very interesting. One is that your senior officers, your chairman and your first vice chairman, will go up for, we call it boot camp, where you'll have 30 meetings in 2 days with all the leaders. And it's just incredible because you're racing around, you're running around, but that lays the groundwork because they're the ones that are going to set all the calendars and everything else, right? So the committee work will be done and the leadership will take those messages forth. But what happens on a day like LegCon, this is the beauty of it. All 50 states will work with their national lobbyists as well as their state people, and they'll put together a call sheet and who they need to get in front of. So you can imagine in a state like California, it becomes a little bit harder in New York because they have so many legislators that they'll have to split their people up and they'll have to schedule those meetings. In a state like Connecticut, where we have 7, we have 2 senators, 5 congressmen and women, and we will try to see them all and on that day. And we usually do a fairly good job of that. And if we don't, we'll meet them back when they're back here in Connecticut, right? So the smaller states can do that kind of thing. And then as you get larger, it's somewhere in the middle. But it's fabulous because and then we have our debriefing so that we come back and we compile all the concerns about the bills that we've commented on, the different concerns we have. And we're able to really, from that point, learn what our next steps have to be. So Jim Tobin and his team have a clear roadmap of what happens next.
Sure. So how do I get my pass to go on Capitol Hill with you there, Greg, and advocate? Can I come?
Yeah. Oh, you know what, though? If you carry that camera around, you know us. There'll be enough people trying to get on camera that you'll be able to go anywhere you want.
Yeah, right. I love it. All right. So here we are. We're on Capitol Hill, the White House. Tell me about this letter from the White House.
This was a big effort that we tried a little bit. We called an audible, right? So that we know how to use our legislative alerts, and we'll be able to pump out letters to each senator on certain committees. We'll go around the country. Maybe they all need to get letters, and we have these great tools. We tried something else. Let's go right to the White House on this. We have so many things that we have to effectuate, especially with the burdensome regulations that we talked about, with the supply chain issues and how it relates to the Commerce Department, to all these cabinet positions. So we're sending a letter right to the administration. We had 10 10,000 signatures on it. 10,000.
Wow, that's a lot of signatures.
And we just figured out that we're scratching the surface of the kind of things that we can do. So, but let me tell you, if Dave Cooper Live gets a letter that has 10,000 people that have gotten behind it, your chances are pretty good you're going to read it carefully, right? It's got some. So that's why we saw, and it's really had some super results so far. And it's one of the things that we're going to look at. You can't do it every week now. We can't go, okay, here's this 11,000 this week, but we wanted to try this tool, and it's been very, in the past, just to give you some examples of things we've done. One time we sent 2x4s to the Capitol on different issues, and they said, oh no, we can't just have postmen delivering 2x4s. Come on, I mean, we got hurt backs and we got everything else when that happens. So over time we've had to fine tune and perfect some of these methods that we use, but tremendous. But one of the things that as we're talking about this and how do 10,000 signatures come into play? If you look right now, how I always like to give you a couple little tidbits. Here's one for this update. 81% of consumers, 81%, can only afford fewer than a half of the homes available for sale in their market. Right? So let me just repeat that. So picture 81%, that's a hefty number, right? That's 4/5. They can only afford, all those people have to start looking at the halfway point or below to even be able to afford something, right? That's meaningful. And and it's only as we start this inflection point that I'm talking about, the curve, how it is on the line, if we keep with housing affordability becoming increasingly difficult to stabilize, and it just becomes even worse. So if you crank rates up too much that nobody can move, if you, all these different things, now we're not talking about recession being in our near future or anything like that, but those types of concerns, we have to keep an eye on everything. And that's what our industry is being so careful and cautious about, that demand is so red hot, and the ability to bring the materials and labor that we need to our job sites is putting stress and strain economically that we haven't seen in quite some time. So we've got a lot in the balance here.
Yeah, no, we definitely do. Definitely do. All right, we have a question from Henry Mickelberg. Interest rates lag behind inflation, but inevitably rise accordingly, which is obviously a problem for the concept of affordability. Is there a cunning plan in place to avoid 2008 again?
That's it, Henry, right? I mean, that's why we'll be up in front of these guys again, in front of the Fed, and say, look, here's why. If you remember the last time they tried to click up in, let's say 18, right? It was, and they tried too quickly, and you saw a big swing in demand in the housing market, applications at banks, and the ability for people to jump in with both feet into the market. Over the year, as we turned into the following year, we had to back off the interest rates, and then we saw them get under control and go down again. They're going to be watching this super carefully, because if you overshoot the mark, it's devastating. So you have to do something.
Right.
Inflation can't just be, all-time historic high without doing anything about it. So we have to, now we're seeing it creep up to being high. So, and we're going to have to tackle it. But yes, Henry, great point. And I mean, that's the battle that they're waging right now.
Yeah. So what are you guys seeing as far as the projection? When can we expect this this drop in the market, recession, whatever we want to call it? And what is your prediction on that based on what Robert Dietz is saying? Is it going to be a kind of a V curve, or is it going to be just a quick little blip? What do we think and when?
Well, so he's sort of breaking it down for us a little bit, because those broad strokes are, you don't want to get too out in front with your prognostication either, right? Because you don't want to be a cause of something that. So where we are now, the first question that he gets is, with a market this hot and with prices increasing so quickly, are we going to see any decreases in pricing? Are we going to see any corrections there? What can we expect? That answer is pretty logical as you work through it. He's saying that you're probably not going to see decreases. Why? Because we still have unbelievable demand. Okay. So that people are still trying to forge ahead, take advantage of the interest rates where they are, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, you will see those interest rate increases and these uncertainties of the market. You're seeing it on Wall Street, you're seeing it everywhere. So we'll see some stabilization on prices. Commodities like lumber and those, you will see fluctuations even downward. So that if you could still time lumber as such that you can probably get some better pricing if you really monitor and watch closely. But overall, we're hoping that we just don't see the rocket ship of increases going, that we stabilize a bit. As far as the long term, what the market's going to do right now, there's really, we're starting to see some tweaks in demand, but it hasn't gone away. So that chapter's not yet written, Dave. And next time we'll keep doing this update. You know how it is, but we don't have that information or even a scare or a guess right now. It's just, let's keep working at it and try to get this thing as softly as we can and get through this.
Absolutely. I love Henry. Henry says Dave sells his house in a high, sits out the storm in his RV. Smart guy. Hey, I like you, Henry. Your $20 is in the mail, my friend, coming across to you. So, but yeah, we're definitely this time around in a better place than we were in 08. And I hope everybody else is looking at that as well, to make sure you sit in a good place, because inevitably these things happen and they're going to come, and it's almost cyclical. If you actually look at the timeline, Greg, on this, I mean, it's like every 12 to 15 years, like clockwork. If you look at the history of housing recessions or all those things. So interesting enough.
Yep. And, we try to learn from our past actions, and we try to take from those lessons, but each one is a little bit different. You still have to call audibles. And the best thing that you can do is prepare your companies, and you can look at the best ways for you to be able to progress and be as safe as possible. But whenever you see situations like this, there's a lot to be gained and a lot to be made out there too, right? If you just calm down, and you see a lot of people now that jumped into contracts, got very far ahead, like, let me sign up 30 deals, or if you're smaller, 5 deals, whatever. If you're still trying to deliver those with all these price increases, that's a tough predicament to be in, because you're building for nobody at that point, right? Because all your profits gone and signed off on. So you just have to keep your eye on the ball and work through a lot of these hardships.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Greg, let's get into it. Building Systems Week. In fact, we got several things coming up that's being put on by the National Association of Home Builders. The first is Building Systems Week, June 20th, June 24th. What do you got for me?
So this will be a biggie, right? So this is going to be a lot of the education that we need to see, pulling a lot of these offsite efforts together. And I heard through the grapevine, you're not going to believe this, but we have an unbelievable master of ceremonies that's going to pull this whole thing together for us. I don't know. You might have heard something on this. Have you gotten any information?
I don't know who this guy is, how he keeps popping up. But yes, Mr. Ugalde, I am fortunate enough to have been asked to be the master of ceremonies for this event and some more we're going to talk about coming up. So it's a real honor to be put in a position to where I can actually help honor people that are doing great things, because there's awards at some of these events, but also showcase just showcase what's happening in the industry and what are the exciting things are, because that's what Building Systems Week's all about. It's about bringing awareness to the industry. So super excited about it.
And you're just the person to do it. In all seriousness, I mean, you've now have developed the knowledge and the contacts around the world. That's what's really unbelievable about the effort that's being made here. That things like this, and let's just jump in. So you have Building Systems Week, but also in June, you're going to be able to sign up for the Building Systems Housing Summit that Devin Perry's putting together. You guys are working on that. Again, you're going to be at the helm of that. That's going to be September 18th through 20th, right? Yeah,
yep,
20th.
Through the 20th. Yeah, so that's in 20th. Atlanta. That's it. Yeah, Atlanta. I believe it's still in the W Hotel. We had to cancel it because of COVID last year. But that's an on-site event, on location. So hopefully put it on your calendars. Make sure you sign up. Yes, I'm going to be the master of ceremonies for that on-site location event as well. And that should be just awesome, man. We haven't had a chance to celebrate Building Systems Week since before COVID. So the summit's going to be amazing to have that going on. So we got the Building Systems Week, we got the Building Systems Summit, and we have a really awesome event coming up on the mall outside of the White House.
Right. And this is so couple years since we've had the Building Systems Housing Summit, right? But also the Innovative Housing Showcase that's on the mall. And that's going to be right around the corner, June 10th through 12th. And this will be, last time, remember, they did some efforts to bring in the Fannie Mae and Freddie financing that they were able to put in place for some of the offsite effort. This is going to be more expansive. It's going to be a lot of education, and it's free to everybody. And it's going to be on the mall. So you're going to see, I mean, last time it was tens of thousands of people. This time it promises to be every bit of that and then some. And it's just, so this is going to be national in scope. And it's going to be really unbelievable that as they pull this together, it's the National Association of Home Builders working with HUD again, right? And when it's a great mix, because we're so effective at pulling these kinds of events together, really getting the publicity out, and they have the pocketbook and the ability to make sure that they help us get, exactly. And so when everything hits the ground, I mean, you remember last time I was with Secretary Carson for the day.
Yeah,
and right. We just went around, we did panels together, we walked around, and the products that everything from 3D printing, resiliency, all the big things, energy efficiency, everything will be talked about, and there's going to be a lot more on that. And you can look at, for any of these things we're talking about, nahb.org. Devin Perry, who just a quick on Devin, because I know how close you guys are too, and he does so much Devin for the industry. But he also has another. And you know what I'm thinking, Dave? Maybe next time I do an update, we'll bring him on with us too, because we have this Leadership Connect that fits into building systems and everything else. But what this is it's taking some steps in our workforce development. But as younger people are getting into the industry, and people that are new, regardless of age, but they're going to be teamed up with some of our KG vets and our leaders. And he is responsible for making these matches happen. Our big first bite at the apple, a bunch of us are in the hat as being mentors now, and for being on the leadership side. And we're going to pull it together face to face in June for our first step, and then that'll keep going. But when we take some of our better leaders and people like Devin and put these efforts together, it's promising for the future, no question.
It is promising, and we're going to move on to a question here from Jerry in just a second. But just so everybody knows, I've been fortunate enough to help out with providing some really innovative products to hopefully showcase on the mall. So this isn't going to be like the last time. We're taking it up a few notches, so long as the companies can find a way to get their products there, not only from this country, but we're talking to companies from overseas that are doing innovative products to showcase here as well. So definitely now's the time to get in on that. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with the right people. I see Mateo Atwee out there from Boxy. What's happening? Tuning in a little late, but that's all right. That's all right. These are my favorite people. I mean, Greg, come on. Well, there was an accident, Greg. There's two brothers that were under the age of 25, but there was an accident. One of them turned 26, so they're getting older. That started off factor. I love to tell that story. They're so nice. All right, let's take this question from Jerry McCaughey, and we're going to wrap it up right there. Jerry, let me plaster it up here. Jerry says, however, there are a few major differences compared to 2008. I guess we're talking about the recession. We don't have an overbuilt scenario, and we also have the largest group of 29 to 31-year-olds entering the market. So downturn may happen, but should not be as bad as previous, Lee. At least that's his optimistic prediction. I'll go with that.
And Jerry, and that's why I didn't dive in too deeply, but you're absolutely right. There's many differences here. We're also at a position with interest rates that with some care, we can still, low interest rates are still possible, even if we do have to make some corrections and some clicks to battle inflation. But you're absolutely right. We had way too many things on the market back then. You remember, Dave, where we had condos, where we had so many things.
That's right.
Now it's the opposite. What did I say? The demand that we have is because we don't have a lot to sell. And that's why we're going to have a little bit of a different problem, but I think better problems that can be resolved with our hard work, things that are within our control.
I love it. Absolutely. All right, everybody, listen, that's a wrap for today. All right, Tom, ready? This is a great show, guys. Good to hear from you, Tom. I hope you're doing well out there. Greg, is there anything that you wanted to say before we wrap up here? Anything I did not touch on? Any important updates that you want to give, or did we cover it all?
We covered everything, Dave. I just wanted to say that, from following all the great footsteps that are being taken for offsite construction and pulling the industry together, it is absolutely on fire right now. And a big thanks is make sure everybody goes to YouTube and look at all the content that you have there. And some of these shows are just so valuable and great answers and new materials and just new efforts that are out there. It's worth a watch, but thank you, everybody.
Yeah, so make sure you do go there and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are always trying to grow that. It helps us immensely as we're out and about with trying to bring you guys great content, unedited, unfiltered. As always, this show is invite only. It's not a paid for show, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So just so everybody knows out there. Greg, we appreciate everything you're doing. We look forward to hearing your update. Hopefully, again, in another month, we're going to get back on track with that. And for the rest of you out there, we will see you this Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So stay tuned and get some big announcements coming up. We may have some A-listers coming on this show here next month. So keep your ears open.
You mean another A-lister?
Oh, another A-lister. Right, Greg. That's right. That's right. Greg, you rub arms with these people. I do not. But I will tell you, it could be a lot of fun. So keep your eyes and ears open. We're doing a lot of great things out in the world, and we're getting the attention of some really influential people that I hope can help us take this industry to the next inning if we were playing baseball. All right, Greg.
Thanks.
Love you, man. I appreciate you coming back on the show. All right. And everybody else out there, go there and follow Greg Ugalde if you're not following Greg Ugalde. And as always, hit that like and share button one more time to share this. And if you're watching it live, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching it on Saturday morning before Coffee with Dave, of course, well, thank you for watching. And if you put comments in there, we will try and get back to you as soon as possible. Greg Ugalde, you have a wonderful day. Don't go anywhere. Everybody else, we'll see you. Bye now.
Bye now.